Hi guys, I wanted to use the opportunity and we had so many questions about what we're doing at Triochar, so I wanted to make a short video where I explain everything, how we do it and what the whole concept means. Basically what we're doing is we want to reduce carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, and I will explain why it's good for farmers, why it's good for companies and investors, both private and institutional. We're using a material that is called biochar to generate CO2 certificates, also called carbon credits. Carbon credits are valuable and they are tradable at exchanges. For example, Carbon Future is one of the exchanges that is dominant in the voluntary market. I will explain that later. But coming back to biochar, let me explain why it is a game changer for our climate problem. Biochar itself is a substance that is like a charcoal, but it's produced differently under absence of oxygen in a process called pyrolysis, which I will explain later. All this concept is based on the Paris Agreement. 196 countries have built a legal framework to collaborate internationally and reach targets to become net zero by 2050. So the global warming will become manageable when you reduce it to a warming of 1.5 degrees Celsius in the next decades to come. Coming also back to farms, because in the beginning I said it's beneficial for farmers also. We have 614 million farms worldwide. They're feeding 8 billion people. In a couple of decades, the number of the farms will become half of what they are today. And we have an increase in monocultures in agricultural technology. So what all that means is that soil is depleted and needs more and more chemicals and fertilizers. So here biochar comes into effect, and biochar is a natural way to improve biodiversity. Biochar keeps nutrients and water and as well as microorganisms. They live in the biochar because it's a sponge-like material, and all what the plants love is in the biochar. But coming back to the mechanism in the markets, what exists for carbon credits. You have the compliance and the voluntary market. The compliance market is a government-regulated market. Entities can offset their targets and reach their targets by offsetting. And in comparison to the voluntary market, which also has a long story, more than 30 years, and there were early attempts in the 90s, but since 2016, they became interesting because in the Paris Agreement, Article 6 is interesting. It says that voluntary contributions by third parties can count to national contributions. What that means is that voluntary buyers and sellers can come together and it can offset carbon emissions. Long story short, the private demand for voluntary carbon credit, it has reached $2 billion within 5 years. Now, biochar becomes now very interesting as it is a net reducer of CO2. And it's a high-value certificate. So companies like Microsoft, Airbus, Boston Consulting, Henkel, etc. are active buyers of voluntary carbon credits. So what we are doing in this mechanism is we create CO2 certificates, like I said initially, and we produce biochar via a simple method for farmers. It's called the artisan method. So farms can use waste like corn cobs, chicken manure, all kinds of waste needs to be dry, less than 25% humidity, and you can heat it to 600 to 700 degrees Celsius, and you can pyrolyze it, it's called. It's burning without oxygen, and use a cone-shaped kiln for it, which I'll explain what it looks like later. But the artisan method itself is not new. It was hundreds of years old. Indigenous tribes in the Amazonas region were using it. They were calling it terra preta. So what we use are Contiki kilns, and they look like a metal cone-shaped pot, and they are developed by the Ithaca Institute. And to give you a little bit with the numbers, how to handle it, 500 cubic meters of biochar produced is 1 ton of CO2 that is taken from the atmosphere. That's approximately, depending on the bio-waste. 1 ton of CO2 is equivalent to 1 credit. To give it in a perspective, the German CO2 tax is 55 euro per ton of CO2 emitted. The Swiss are implementing 120 Swiss francs, which is approximately 133 US dollars per ton. They are discussing to raise it to $470 per ton. So this is a massive evolution. And basically, while we produce it, we are audited, monitored daily, and there are verification systems, for example, like the Carbon Standards International. They monitor the biomass, they check if it is pyrolyzed properly. Even they are checking from what distance we collect the biowaste, which is maximum 30 kilometers away that we are allowed to collect. All this process, as it is so transparent and monitored, is very interesting to perform, and it's simple. Basically, we have two aspects of the carbon credits. One is soil improvement, and the second one is valuable carbon credits. And both aspects will scale biochar in the world, and it will benefit farmers and investors at the same time. Please visit triochar.io and check the links below. And please let us improve the planet for our children and generations to come. Thank you so much. I will make some more videos in the future, perhaps once a week, where I will go deeper into the matter. Thank you so much.